Hello and welcome to the first Accessibility Summit. I am your host, Joe Monday, and I have a panel of people here today who are ready and willing to share their experience within the fighting game community and the gaming community in general, and how they interact with that community. To just start things off, I want to go around the horn and introduce the panelists. We have from left to right, top to bottom, Def Gamers TV, that Phage guy, Broly Legs, of course, Tokimeki Emily, and a Super Blindman. How's everybody doing?
Good.
You're a rousing hurrah from everybody all at once. But no, to kind of start things off, the first and most obvious topic to cover would be watching streams, because we're doing that right now. So as everybody wants to kind of explain their ability and how they interact with watching streaming, that would be a good place to start. So what's up, everybody? Let's talk. Let's have a chat.
I'll be happy to go first on this one, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. I am a very, I'll say, a variety consumer of streams. I quite enjoy particularly gameplay streams, but I most enjoy gameplay streams with commentary from the player of the game. Some commentary is very well done, and first of all, it's entertaining a lot of the time. But the best commentary is also, even if unintentionally so, kind of descriptive. Like, there's plenty of streamers out there who will basically just talk about what's going on in the game they're playing just because they are thinking it through, just because they are talking about it, even if it's just to their chat or whatever. And that ends up working as a sort of description. It's not perfect. It's not like flawless audio description craziness, but it is definitely a factor in me watching streams and or Let's Plays. And in the case of a stream, I also have the choice of interacting with the streamer as well if something should come up that would require it. So I'm a big fan of streams.
Can I ask you a question then about that?
Yeah.
When watching fighting games in particular, do you find the audio mixing to be a detriment or a benefit? Like, what's your ideal audio mix?
Yeah, I think that very much depends on the streamer setup, because every streamer will do it differently. Some streamers will have their audio mix very quiet, and that doesn't help as much, because when I'm watching a fighting game stream, what I want out of the stream is to learn something. Typically is why I watch those. So I want to hear a streamer talk about the new combo that they're practicing, and I want to be able to hear the combo as well. So the more balanced the audio mix can be between the streamer and the game audio, the better.
That can be, as someone who is a producer of streams, such as this one, that can be a somewhat difficult thing to achieve.
Oh, understood.
Other than buying the raw hardware to get all of that done. Also, as people can see on this stream, there are closed captions, and getting all of that set up to work automatically it might require a couple little technical issues, which if anybody would like a write-up on how to set up, I personally use Voicemeeter Banana and have as a digital mixer, and I route all of my audio through that so that I can control what goes to closed captioning, and it allows me to isolate a lot of audio that I wouldn't otherwise be able to with a physical mixer based on inputs and outputs from my PC. So if anybody is interested in that, I could do, and probably should do, a write-up on just how things are routed to get closed captions, because once I set them up, it was very easy to, I don't think about it at all anymore. I just turn it on and it works. But I am always thinking about that audio might get messy if there's music going on right now, or the game audio isn't high enough in the mix, things like that. So
that's worth mentioning too. When it comes to music, if I hear someone that is playing a fighting game but also playing other music over the fighting game, I'm probably not going to watch them. Just being honest.
Yeah.
I prefer to focus on the game itself. I want the game audio and their commentary. I don't want any extra music.
So real quick, before we go too far from this topic, so for me, I'm that Phage guy. I don't have any particular issues with watching streams, generally speaking. My disability in particular is in my hand, so the audio-visual components of streams are generally pretty easy for me to handle. But since we have been talking about captioners, it might be helpful to hear from Chris, who I know has specifically been working on rating some of the different captioners that are out there. And certainly has more expertise than any of the rest of us about which ones are most useful. Definitely let's make sure that we get his input here. It's certainly something I would consider crucial. But if anyone else has anything else they'd like to add about streams, I'm generally good with streams. So other folks, by all means, take the stage.
So for me, I don't really have any audio or visual problems when watching streams. For me, it's all about how the streamer explains like the character they're playing or goes in depth on a combo and shows that combo, shows the key commands and kind of does a deep dive into that. I try to do that, but I'm not very good at it, but I still try. But my disability is limiting in my hands, so I can't really execute combos as well as I know I could do. It's just for me it's kind of a 50-50 most of the time whether I can land a combo or not. So yeah, that's my only difficulty is just my hands.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to streams. Watching them, I don't really have video, audio issues, abilities on muscles. So it's really about just finding the right streamer to watch, audio balance, cool. Just if I want to learn something, be able to see what they're doing. Especially those that have kind of hand cams. It's a little tough just because if most of the focus is on that, I don't really get to learn too much. Obviously, because I don't get to use my. But usually, it helps to find those that are very descriptive to get a feel what I want to as I learn new game stuff like that. But usually, most streamers are pretty good about being descriptive and educational, and those are the ones that.
All right, Chris, you want to? If I have it set up so if Chris wants to type, he can just type away, and we'll be able to see it. I'll probably make it larger for this segment.
All right, so I'm just going to read this as Chris is typing it so that folks who are chiming in without sight know what's going on. Chris is saying that he loves watching fighting game streams, but it gets really complicated because he doesn't necessarily know what's going on. So he would have to rely on his current knowledge in order to determine what's happening for a given game. That can be tough. In particular, when he's trying to learn something. So it's his hope that talking about making fighting game streams more accessible for people who don't hear to be able to enjoy watching with captioning. So one more time, the entire thing through. So this is Chris's words precisely. I love watching FG streams, but it gets really complicated because I don't know what's going on. So I would have to rely on my current knowledge of the game, which can be tough too when I'm trying to learn something different. So that's why I really hope that talking about making fighting game streams more accessible for people who don't hear to be able to enjoy watching with captioning.
Right on. I was just thinking in my head of ways because as someone who puts on the streams, like it has been fun finding solutions for these issues, because sometimes the solution is pretty minor, like captions, for example. It's very easy to do. Anyone can set it up. Or even getting Chris's voice on here, as you can see. Like, there's just things that I wouldn't necessarily think about that I am appreciative to hear of, and always make the community a little bit more friendly to everybody. But Brian, you kind of had another line of questioning you might have wanted to go down, unless we're still have more on that topic that anybody wants to cover.
I do have another quick note here from Chris, saying that his favorite captioners are Web Captioner, and the extension that's actually currently being used on this stream, Talk to Me Gooseman's extension for closed captions. Those are in general the two best solutions that he's come across. So if you're looking for captioning solutions, that's a good place to start. And I'll go ahead and I'll stick the link in the chat if I can. For the Gooseman extension. I don't know. You might have to do that, Joe. I don't know if I'll get banned.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me fix that. Try and share it, and I'll get it for you. Give me 1 minute and try again. There you go. Figured it out. All good. With that though, what was we can go back to the line of questioning though, because you had a kind of a docket for us to stick to.
Yeah, sure. So we've sort of talked about regular streams now, and we've touched on it a little bit. But something that some folks also run into issues with are combo videos specifically, rather than streams for events.
Mm-hmm.
So in particular, this is something that's a standalone event. So rather than being something that you are actively watching and participating in, it is media that is pre-recorded and may have a text component associated with it as well in the video info. So just various issues that folks run into with these, suggestions for content creators to help them be a bit more accessible for what it is you're dealing with at your end.
Super Blind Man tackling this issue right now. All right. So combo videos. I am the again, I'm the kind of person who wants to learn. If I'm playing a fighting game, I want to learn how to play it. And so I will turn to combo videos. I will try to anyway. The problem is, what often happens is someone who makes a combo video will also rely on the viewer's tendency to be cited. And they do this by, for instance, showing combo lists on screen and saying, okay, here's this combo. Look at this string. Okay, this is how you do this, without actually saying, these are the buttons you press. It's high punch, high kick, whatever you want to call it. 1, 2, 3, and 4, so on and so forth. So I can kind of get an idea based on the audio of the combo most of the time. Well, I shouldn't even say most of the time. Sometimes I can get a decent idea of at least the speed of the combo. And if I'm familiar with the linked special moves that are connected with the combo, I can sometimes figure it out from there. But it's very rare that I can pull off a really, really large combo without actual knowledge of what buttons to press and when. So content creators out there that want to make combo videos more accessible, as far as I'm concerned, as a blind person, just read the buttons out. Let us know what we should be pressing and when, and why, and how, and all that.
I would like to comment on top of that, because even though you are blind and have that issue, I feel like this roots up a larger issue with combo videos in general, and that has to do with the archiving of knowledge. Specifically, like, how do you search for a combo video? Like, what are you looking for? Do you know if it's up to date? These things are in my opinion, not well kept in short video clips, even though short video clips are good for like quick sharing and will get you lots of interaction and stuff like that. It's having that combo written out, and specifically in a way that is universally accepted. It would be nice if the fighting game developers themselves had like, this is what this combo looks like in text. This is our annotation, instead of having, I don't know, I feel like every time there's a new anime game, someone on Twitter talks about, I don't understand number input, the number dial and annotation, numpad and annotation. How do I do that? And it's just having that kind of consistency through having people write stuff down for that information to be saved later, so it can be searched later, archived later, and all that stuff. I think is just from a, I don't know, as someone who has moderated our Street Fighter for the longest time and watched tech come and go and be forgotten and not saved, like quote unquote saved properly, is just a pet peeve of mine that that affects everybody, honestly.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really annoying when it comes to, you know, combo videos is when a patch drops. For example, Street Fighter V updates not often, but often enough to where some of the tech that you're learning, some of the tech videos you're watching aren't as relevant as they were, you know, 6 months ago or whenever they were made. So then it goes, okay, so this tech video is irrelevant now. So how do I go about finding somebody that's, you know, pumping out content that I can watch but can also, you know, relate to and not only see but demonstrate on my own, you know, like on my own skills, like if I can. Like for me, like I said, my disability is cognitive and it's in my hands. So even though I'm watching a combo video, let's say, you know, Cammy's B&B, sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. But with, you know, certain patches, certain inputs aren't really the same, or the frame is off, or the timing is different. So it's just, I feel like making combo videos is harder because you not only have to keep in mind, you know, maybe having a hand cam, but maybe also having like your key commands displayed while talking about, you know, what you're doing. So if someone can't physically see the key command list, they can hear you and you can walk them through, you know, the extensive combo, or at one point to push a button. Something like that.
Anybody else have a take on combo videos?
I think Brian is muted.
I apologize. I stream instead of unmuting myself, which may have been the better decision for the viewers, but now you get to endure me. So I have chatted with Brandon a few times, that is Super Blind Man, about how to effectively convey information about fighting games to folks who are using screen readers. And one thing that we discussed, and I wanted to make sure, Brandon, you could explain it better than I could, would be with something like a combo video, the importance of an attached transcript or written out versions of the combos with notation. I don't know necessarily that what I've done in the past is actually the best practice. So if you could explain sort of what, if you were to go and learn a combo from someone, or from an archive, what would be the ideal format to have your information?
Honestly, going back to that discussion about written annotations and things of that nature, what actually may be an interesting idea, and actually I just kind of thought about this, is to actually do the reverse of, or the inverse, I guess, of what we talked about, where maybe one way to approach combo videos and combo instruction would be to have a sort of a blog post on a per character basis, or something similar to that, kind of a post that is archived on a website somewhere, where a person can read about a combo in text, read what it does, what its frame data is, whether there's highs and lows in it, and so on and so forth. Right below that combo that you just read about is an embedded video that contains the actual audio of that combo, so you can hear it in action. And so you could learn first the way the combo is supposed to be executed, then you could learn how it sounds when it is executed properly, meaning you can basically teach yourself those timings, those combo timings, based on the new knowledge that you have. I think that'd be actually really interesting. I just thought of this just now.
I think that also leads into the next bit of discussion, or at least naturally leads into where tech is kept, which I saw someone in the chat say, oh, you have to just follow someone who knows what's going on in the game or is up to date, which it works kind of, but then I feel like that just adds another layer of a barrier of entry of, well, how do you know who's the best? Like, where do you go to follow these people? The answer for most players is you just go to the character Discord. That's where the conversation is happening. That's where the up-to-date stuff is. And are things... Discord... Should we talk about Discord next? Like, that's... Is that the elephant in the room here? Or is that jumping too far ahead?
So I know there are several folks, myself included, with strong opinions on Discord and things that are good or bad practice. But before we move on, I know Chris had some thoughts on combo videos.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure he had a chance to get those out here. So here from Chris saying, one thing about combo videos it's easy to be able to learn something, but sometimes it can be a problem when you are stuck. It's good that to have the playback available on combos that you want to know how to do in a given game. YouTube is where I go to look up something to learn how to play. To learn how to play Eddie or Asuka in Tekken 7. But I'm always finding the wrong patch for the character, and it can be pretty confusing.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he's alone in that.
And that's why I said with updates, it's hard to kind of see what's still relevant and what's not, especially in a game like, Tekken.
Mm-hmm.
So I
it would be
understand
nice
that.
when people upload combo videos to include maybe the date, maybe what patch build it's on, to make it easier to search for it.
Big agree there. Big agree there. Oops.
Combo videos are a wonderful tool for learning, no doubt, but it's just annoying sometimes being stuck and there's nowhere to go. Especially when there may be some people not used to helping a deaf person. Which I completely understand. It's a whole different experience, but learning to play can still be somewhat similar. But as a deaf person, I learn through things visually. So as long as there are visual information for me to take in, I might be able to play the way I want. So it truly would help to have these information in your combo videos, just as Brandon said. Audio is very important to him.
We should come up with like a ghostwriter out for
Yeah.
for him, like some kind of sign off.
I'll tell him just to sign them at the end moving forward. I do want to read this whole thing again just so that folks who weren't able to read it get the whole message. One thing about combo videos are that it's easy to be able to learn something, but sometimes it can be a problem when you're stuck. It's good that to have playback on a combo that you want to know how to do in a given game. YouTube is where I go to look up something to learn how to play Eddie or Asuka in Tekken 7. But I'm always finding the wrong patch for the character, and it can be pretty confusing. So it would be nice when people upload combo videos to include maybe the date, maybe what patch build it's on, to make it easier to search for it. Combo videos are a wonderful tool for learning, no doubt, but it's just annoying sometimes being stuck and there's nowhere to go to, especially when there may be some people not used to helping a deaf person, which I completely understand. It's a whole different experience, but learning to play can still be somewhat similar. But as a deaf person, I learn through things visually. So as long as there are visual information for me to take in, I might be able to play these the way I want. So it truly would help to have these information in your combo video. Just as Brandon said, audio is very important to him.
Right on. With that, though, I think we can move on to Discord. I think Emily wanted to had some words prepared to say for that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did, but I'm just gonna make it brief because I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way or not. But basically, I don't think Discord is user friendly. I think it's complicated in that to find certain things, like to set up your mic or to set up, your headphones, you kind of have to go through a menu that's not clearly labeled. And if it is, then you have to click that menu open and then go through a smaller menu just to get to your mic and set that up. It's a multitude of pages and pages, and I just wish that Discord was just click and go type of thing. And just user friendly in that sense. Like I said, I don't know if I'm speaking for myself or if it's just my lack of familiarity with the app. I'm learning how to use Discord now, obviously, for projects like this and for a business. So I'm getting a better handle on it. I just wish that Discord was better labeled and just mapped out better to where people could find what they're looking for within one click and just set it up as how they need to.
I tend to agree that it's not a very user-friendly experience. The Super Blind Man, do you have is Discord any better at being accessible to, does it work with screen readers, or is that, has that had been updated yet?
So yes, it has. Discord used to be utterly, completely terrible with screen readers, but over the past, I'd say, year or year and a half or so, Discord has done a lot of work to make Discord screen reader accessible. The PC version of Discord is now, I would say, very, very accessible to the blind. And I no longer have a problem with it personally. On the PC version, I can do whatever I need to do. There are a few very minor gripes, but I don't feel like I don't feel like it's not accessible. And maybe the thing is, I have to admit that that could be partial perspective on my part too, because when this is kind of a tangent a little bit, but when an application that wasn't accessible then shows initiative and the developers of that application start making their app accessible to us, we blind people tend to be very, very, very grateful that that happened. So my lack of annoyance at Discord right now could be entirely a result of the fact that, hey, they did show the initiative and they have improved quite a bit. And so my gripes with it are only very minor. And I really like the Discord PC app. It's the mobile app that I still don't like. Just the mobile app.
Yeah, the mobile app is more difficult than the PC application. I find it easier to use the PC version than the phone version, mobile version. If I had to choose between the two, I would go for the PC version.
Yeah,
and
same here.
Delete.
Delete mobile forever.
Yeah, delete mobile forever. But that's just me.
If I were to wear my tinfoil hat right now, I'm putting it on. You can't see this. I'm putting on my tinfoil hat.
Nope, still can't see it.
Is that I
do that all the time. Get used to it.
You got me. Is that, it's dunked. Is that I feel as though Discord almost accidentally became ubiquitous between a lot of gaming communities in a way where too many people, or like they broke that user number barrier, whatever it is, to be like, oh, everybody communicates through this now, which has benefits and has its drawbacks, but at the same, I've always described Discord as a Swiss Army knife that like is kind of bad at everything it does. Like it's gonna have audio issues. It's gonna be like the UI is not the best, as Emily says. Like getting lost in things. It's gonna try and take over your audio for whatever reason and mess with your gain on the fly and make things really. It's doing the problem that Windows did a while back, where they kind of said, you want to do this now, right? It's like, well, no, I had it set up the way that I want to use it, and now you've kind of ruined everything. So asking people to, at least from a TO perspective, when I'm running tournaments, I have to be aware that getting people on Discord, whether they're already on that platform or not, is another barrier of entry to say, here's another hurdle. Like, get on this platform. This is where we're going to communicate. And I have learned over the years that the more hurdles you put in front of people, the more stumbling blocks there are for people to just say, don't care enough to join in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
It's a fair statement.
Go
as far
ahead.
as Discord goes, I'm sorry. A quick question, actually, for Broly and Emily. So for me, I have to sort of limit the amount of typing I do with my hands. So a lot of the time when I'm using computer apps in general, I'm using shortcuts, or I'm dictating. And dictation works pretty well most of the time with Discord, but I haven't found any particularly good shortcut keys. Do you folks have any shortcuts that you use in particular?
Honestly, when I type anything out in Discord, I just take my 5 to 10 minutes to type out my paragraph and send it and be on my way. I personally don't like shortcuts because I find them difficult. I don't like voice to text because I feel like it doesn't always transcribe what I'm saying exactly. So I might as well just, take my 5 to 10 minutes to type out my message and do it that way. Like you, I have difficulty typing, but I just stick to my guns and I type, or send a video if I'm really tired and don't want to type. But that's like a last resort for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have shortcuts. I mean, I type everything with my mouth, so kind of just do it like the old school way. I've tried dictation before. It's just not for me. I don't like being loud. Like, I'm already a loud person. I like being loud and just random times of the day when I want to type. But I definitely feel like it does give good to people that have issues with their hands, especially for me. But anything like to do with like shortcuts, I haven't did dictation since middle school.
Gotcha. And so one thing that may be useful to keep in mind here as far as dictation goes, the algorithms that are used for things like auto captioning and dictation are generally made by white guys with neutral American accents, which means that me, a white guy with a neutral American accent, is going to be closest to their test data. So generally speaking, it is going to be more accurate for me just because the algorithms were made from voices like mine. So that's sort of a structural advantage that I have in my dictation that some other folks may not necessarily have. And there's one other thing that I know about Discord that can be a bit of a pain. So Brandon, I was wondering if you could tell us how your screen reader works when someone puts an image or a GIF in chat.
Yeah, when someone puts an image or GIF in chat, what the screen reader does is basically give you a bunch of numbers. Then I assume what the numbers are is something to do with the URL that Discord puts that image on, because it stores it on the internet, because Discord is, all done over a server. It's all, it's all internet based. So I imagine when someone uploads an image onto a Discord server, Discord puts it, at a very, very random URL, so it can't just be found by anyone. But that URL is composed of a bunch of numbers, and we get to hear them all. Hooray!
Is there a way around that at all by
we can
saying like don't display image or anything like that?
Not that I know of, but what I do in those cases is I recognize it as an image right away. As soon as I start hearing a random string of numbers, I know that it's an image that someone uploaded, and so I just immediately interrupt speech and move on.
I see.
That's it.
Broly, I kind of want to talk about macros again. So do you use a Stream Deck at all or anything like that when you stream?
I do everything the way it is default.
Dang. Okay.
I kind of just try. Yeah.
Doing it hard way. All right.
I'm fine. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just the way I am programmed or whatever. I just try to do things like, unless it's like really hard to do, or if it's completely blocked off of my ability to do something, I'll look for ways around it. Mm-hmm. But if I can do it, I'll do it. Just because I'm not a complainer type person, but I understand, like, people have certain needs, and the features are very well done when implemented. It's just not something that I do. But maybe talk to me when I'm like 40 or 50 and start doing these. It does get tiring. Like I've had prior history of typing out whole books, so without any doing the whole, using your mouth. So, it's just the way I am personally. But I understand there's a need for it, and I'm glad it's there. That it's an option.
Yeah, I only bring it up as I use a Stream Deck, and I'm like 50-50 on it. Sometimes I feel like it breaks too often, which can be kind of a headache. Or maybe that's just me and the way that I am as an old man of like, the computer did the update and the thing's broken now. So now like relying on it too much always causes relying on, let's say, programs typically or software for your solutions typically causes more headaches than, I don't want to say it's worth, because that really makes me sound like a curmudgeon, but
not to interrupt, but I feel like I could chime in here, because I think you might be interested to know that I use a Stream Deck when I stream as well.
What's your take?
So my take is, it is absolutely a tremendous help to have a Stream Deck.
Well, there you go.
The reason I say that is because I stream using OBS, which many people do, but some people use Streamlabs OBS, which I definitely do not. Anyway, I stream using OBS, and there are certain aspects of OBS that aren't really quite there when it comes to accessibility. But because of the Stream Deck, that doesn't really matter. Because I have shortcuts on the Stream Deck to do those things that aren't really accessible. So it actually makes things a lot easier streaming with the Stream Deck, in my humble opinion.
Do you ever, I mean, maybe this is just my personal issue, and I want to make that clear to everybody, and also to Elgato. Do you ever find that when you press a button, it will be like, nope, we can't do that this time?
I honestly, truthfully, don't think that has ever happened.
Oh, word. That's cool. That's great. I am glad that people have that experience. That is great to hear.
I mean, I've certainly had instances where I wish it had happened. Like the time that my cat walked across my Stream Deck while I was on break and set me back to live. You know, that was really nice. That was a really good time. I had to rush up and say, "Hey guys, no, I'm not live yet. I'll be back momentarily." But you know, no, that's never happened to me, to my knowledge. I don't think so.
Maybe I'm just cursed.
Quick here, I am getting word that Chris would like to say a thing or two about Discord.
Sure, go ahead.
So I believe he will start typing momentarily.
Honestly, if you can express to him that if he just wants to type at any time, I'll be able to see it, and it's displayed right away. So we can just roll right into it.
Will do, and he has also asked me to emphasize that he is extremely pretty, and you should take the text away from his face in between his comments, so everyone else can enjoy how beautiful he is.
All right. Pull that away from.
Tell him that I'm looking right at him and I don't see it.
I'll put that other image on screen that he'd sent if I hadn't saved over it already.
And here, again, being read out from, in Chris's words, but coming from Phage. Yeah, my thinking with Discord is it's mostly for a voice chat. And thankfully, friends are still willing to use text chat when chatting with me or other folks. One thing I wish Discord never removed was the mobile app being able to use landscape mode. I don't know why they took that off, but that's what made it easier for me to type most of the time.
As someone who usually keeps their phone in portrait mode, it's interesting to hear.
For the PC Discord, it has indeed gotten better with light and dark mode and text size, but I do agree with Emily that the mapping could be a lot better.
And one last thing about Discord that I'll say is I think because of the mapping being so, I want to say all over the place, it inhibits new people from playing in online events, from joining online communities because they don't know how to navigate the scope that is Discord. So you're potentially, you know, closing off a group of people, whether they're disabled or not. It sucks, and it should be addressed. And like I've said before on my streams, accessibility doesn't always count for disabled people. Accessibility is a vast topic. So I think disabled or not, people need to pay attention and be aware.
I would like to quick read this whole comment from Chris so folks can hear it with a slightly more natural cadence. So again, this is Phage reading Chris's words in his voice, or acting as his voice. Yeah, my thing with Discord, it's mostly for a voice chat, but thankfully for friends willing to still use the text chat when chatting with me or other folks. One thing I wish Discord never removed was the mobile app, being able to use landscape mode. I don't know why they took that off, but it's what made it easier for me to type most of the time. For the PC Discord, it has indeed gotten better with light and dark mode, text size, but I do agree with Emily that the mapping could be a lot better. Discord went from being gaming only to Skype 2.5. But it's still something to keep the community together, voice chat-wise, text chat, and video chat. Great for getting together to learn and have fun with fighting games.
Yeah. That is,
I both agree and disagree. I really I really like the Skype 2.5 comment, but that said, in my opinion, Discord is still better than Skype even today. Today.
I 100% agree with that. Like what I had said earlier about things being taken over by Discord, Skype does that to it is more broken than that. But something that both Chris and Emily were talking about, to kind of round back to the conversation, is that a lot of organizers and event organizers, especially on a small scale, think about how many steps you're asking your players to take to get involved with your event, with whatever you're doing, and lower that number as much as possible. Make it so that they don't have to read anything, because they're not going to read anything. And in a lot of cases, like, people's information is like hidden behind stuff. Like, another one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of Smash GG as a place to run things from is because it's, well, again, the UI is kind of it asks a lot from people of where do you click on it? Are you looking at Smash GG on mobile? That's a horrendously slow experience that causes headaches, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But if you are trying to run an event, always keep in mind to try to lower those numbers of hurdles. I know I keep going back to that, but that is just something that over the years I've learned is just to have to make things as easy as possible.
And that was one thing that I was gonna hit on, Joe, but you hit it out of the park. So you did very, very, very well with that.
Well, because I used to get mad about like, oh, you didn't read the rules, gosh darn it. But it's like, I can't expect that of people, actually. Like, I know that might sound pretty basic, of like, if people want to be involved, they should just read and be involved. But like, no, there's so many other great things to do and be a part of, that if you don't make whatever you're doing easy to hop on or easy to get into, if you don't lower that barrier of entry, if you don't make it make sense, then it's really easy for people to bounce off and go do something else, because again, there's a lot of options out there.
I do want to... Oh.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Emily. I did want to expand a bit on the idea of barriers to entry and sort of the number of things that you're asking someone to do to participate in an event or be a part of a community as a whole. And one aspect that is true for me in particular, most of my accessibility barriers are soft barriers. They're not hard stops. So I can do most things. It's just some things are way more stamina intensive than others, or way more painful than so with things that folks are required to do, or different roles that you might ask different things of within a community, it is useful for folks to keep in mind this difference in needed stamina. So for instance, I knew tonight that I was going to be helping out with providing a transcript of some of what we're saying over to Chris to make sure everything's spelled correctly, so that he can chime in at a good time with his thoughts. Separately, that's on me for not securing an interpreter in time, but we'll fix that next time, I promise. But additionally, in order to do that, I had to plan actually the entirety of the lessons that I was teaching today to a bunch of high school seniors about physiology. I had to plan to minimize the number of actions that I was going to be taking to make sure I'd have enough hand stamina to do this tonight. And I'm going to have to spend a bit of extra time tomorrow morning doing some stretches and avoiding typing to make sure that I can make it through the rest of the week. So a lot of times, things that folks may not consider a huge burden, so things like, oh, quick typing up a combo guide, or talking to a bunch of people on Discord, explaining the rules or the expectations, or even just pulling someone aside for a quick text chat in order to explain either a more advanced concept or walk them through why something that they did wasn't cool for that community. it's something that can have an outsized impact for folks like me, where the amount that I can type is very limited, and so I have to control it very specifically. And requests that sort of are asking me to put a lot of stamina out for something that has minimal impact in the end is very frustrating. In particular, I struggle a lot with the pain that's associated with my condition, and so things that are putting me in pain for little or no reason are very rapidly extremely frustrating. So that applies both to the concept of signing up for a tournament, being understanding if someone is having issues with their hands and needs to drop out last minute or after playing only one match in a set, but also when you're trying to build your community and provide roles for everyone such that they can feel fulfilled and feel a part of what you've got going on. Make sure that you're taking into consideration not only what's going to make someone feel comfortable in a given environment, so taking steps like asking people to describe their videos, or making sure that if there's making a joke in audio chat, that they're also writing it out so that Chris can mock them for their terrible sense of humor. But also understanding that the requests that you make of disabled people in some instances will have an outsized effect relative to what you're expecting.
I saw someone ask in the chat about joining tournaments and just kind of a breakdown of how we run things and where we run things, is that all of the communication that we do is run on Discord. That's where matchmaking happens. That's where people find their matches. That's where like the organization takes place. It's all there. Well, specifically because we've written bots to help us run things. Bots tell people where to go. Bots have commands that make things like can pull things up easily, do macros for us, or they can read what people are typing in the chat and automatically reply. For example, people just say, "Is this where I check in?" I'm pretty sure the bot has a couple of different key phrases where if you say, "Is this where you check in?" the bot automatically just posts, "Nope, this is where you do it," and and provides the link right away. Just stuff like that. But I was thinking of this earlier today, and this might be kind of a spin-off of this topic, but I don't believe the same could be true of a large game. I know that or a large company, right? Like, I'm going to use Capcom, for example, here with how they communicate for the CPT events, specifically this year, it being the year of COVID and the pandemic. They have moved all events online, so they've moved a lot of all their communication to online. But at the same time, like, if you read all of the rules and read all of, like, they have to be open to everything. They can't limit specifically to, you have to be in this Discord. So, like, it's just silly to me to see in the write-up for the rules to those events saying, oh, you could just communicate through PS4, like direct peer-to-peer, like messaging. And in my mind, I'm like, well, yes, that is like, I don't exactly like know what I'm trying to say about this, but like, I think it goes back on, is the game easy to communicate with and make connections through? So something like a CFN, where it's actually like really hard to find, to like relate, this is someone's CFN, this is who they are, this is where you can like find them out. So like games on Steam, for example, you just see, oh, this is this person's Steam profile, I can send them a message. Or how it used to be in like the Xbox 360 days, where you just DM them directly that you are having relations with their mother. Like, it was just very easy to do that with anybody. You could just randomly send it, but now it's not possible. So I think in the future, things that fighting games specifically need to have is some kind of in-game communication that can get messages across to players, like, and not just simple messages, but like something that can relate a complex idea, because fighting games are complex. So like, I don't know, just the idea of developers saying, go somewhere else to have a conversation outside of our game, to me is, I know I'm asking a lot of developers, but maybe that's just me being a little too high-minded on this topic. But I'll shut up.
I don't think it's a lot to ask given the current state of the world. I think online is where we're gonna be for a while. So I think platforms like Discord and games like Street Fighter V need to see that and react and put things in accordingly to make communication easier and more accessible to everybody. Because like I said, Discord is not easy to navigate, and I don't know if you guys have not written, but have read Capcom's tournament rules. It's kind of a lot, and it can kind of get overwhelming. They're not good at summarizing things, which is why I personally would never play in a CPT online. It's a lot.
I guess then, Broly, since you've competed in CPT events before, what's your take on? Should we focus on CPT events in general, or just say what is broadly your experience with large?
I'm just using it as an example.
I know, and I might be asking that because I might have a little bit of a pointed tongue with this, and I don't want anybody to say anything they might not. Regardless, Broly, what is your major tournament experience with like events that are run by the developers or of those games, or official events, let's say?
Right. I mean, I see it both ways.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, I do work as a TO, not just fighter, but suited for competition for Battlefield. So I run a lot of their tournaments. And like a lot of these games that we get, PS4 or things, other systems, we have to try to be as descriptive as possible when it comes to how to get to our tournament. Provide links, provide Discord, provide roles and things like that. Going to your Street Fighter or CPT thing. I mean, I don't know like the way. I mean, if I had to break it down how it goes, I literally have an account on Smash.gg. I get notified, or they'll send out saying, "Hey, registration is open for NA1 or whatever," and I click the link and I join in. Most of the conversation is happening through Smash.gg in the match chat there, or through the Discord. Like if I'm not available or my opponent's not available, we're supposed to go into the Discord and have our CFN's names, so find us and add us whenever. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I guess because I have a lot of definitely your 4, and it's a greatly run, and a lot of people run online.
You kind of cut out there for a moment. Can you repeat that last bit?
Yeah, I've definitely entered a lot of tournaments, CBT wise or your tournament, and they're very well run. And I've enjoyed, being able to understand how to communicate with other people, and using Discord has pretty much been like go-to nowadays. I never really get to message people like what you were saying about how PS4's online is established. I do miss the 360 days where you literally click the button and you can message the person. Really cool. But yeah, like I don't know if I find it very confusing or anything. Like I don't know what steps. How I mean, usually you have your CFN to do your registration. Like pretty much whoever is hosting the event, whether it's Smash.gg or whatever, usually just click the link, register, fill out the process, and you're in. And so usually they have the Discord that you're supposed to be in. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you do have to look for it. So I guess I see in that sense, like having to find all the pocket of information is can be confusing, can be rough. But in the end, I haven't really found any ways of being like, having to complain. I think the only thing I would complain about is just maybe a couple of years ago. It's just like Smash Ultimate wasn't that great at alerting or notifying. Hey, this is your match. Click this together. Like you have to click a lot of things, and that's probably their UI. So I understand, and it's probably something else. But I think just it is kind of unfortunate that they're kind of like that. Like Capcom is like, hey, here's the rules. Now somebody go run it. It's not really. They kind of just dump it on people, and they want to have the official tournaments, but it's not really them running it. So they kind of wait for others, and rules can be weird and very confusing. So it's up to the TO, whoever's running the tournament. So I guess in that sense, I can see where there's complaints and there's problems that can happen. But I mean, in my experience, like I've just kind of been too used to it and done so many tournaments. I mean, I've run tournaments, I've hosted tournaments, I've joined tournaments, so I kind of know the ins and outs. But I can see where some people might have issues if they're very new joining tournaments online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where I agree with you, where you do it so many times that things that are kind of secondhand, you forget what it's like to try something for the first time. So like you're bringing up having all of those links available like right up front is super key, or even having like short explainer videos are really helpful in. This isn't, by the way, this isn't like advice for like big major corporations who are doing stuff like that, because I think for the most part they are doing really good work at making sure that info is available. But for like your average stream, like your smaller events, right? If you are making something, if you are out there trying to run a tournament or run an event, like that is something that you might overlook as something that, oh yeah, I guess I should put all of this info up front, or yeah, I guess I could make that easier to find, are just nice steps that you can take to make sure that people who approach you are know where to go and know what to do so that they can enjoy the event.
Yeah, I agree with the message chat where if they had a way to do it in game, that'd be so much helpful.
Yeah. Especially with like cross-play games like Street Fighter V, where it's in CFN, right? It's there. But again, I am not a game developer. I can't say one way or another what would be or wouldn't be easy to implement in a game that was developed. Gosh, how old is? Wait a minute. What year did Street Fighter V come out? What year is it? 2020 has lasted 5 years long. I have no idea what.
Street Fighter V came out in 2016.
20 years ago. Right. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, 20 years ago, Joe.
All right. Anyway, Brian,
So,
you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I do know that with the Capcom Pro Tour in particular, there have been some concerns I've heard from some of the blind folks in the beginner group that I play with. So I'm going to kind of prompt Super Blind Man and let him take it from there since he's the expert. But then also, Brandon, when you're done with that, I think it might be helpful to hear a bit about your experience playing in the Sento Showdown. And just sort of explain about that and how it worked, because it might inform some of the other TOs here on how to make actually playing in a tournament and registering and finding your matches and everything without sight a bit more accessible as they're planning things. But first of all, what are your thoughts on the fact that the grid is not available for play if you make it to top 16 in a Capcom Pro Tour event?
Did we lose him?
Brandon, did...
Oh, he's muted. I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
if he knows that he's muted. He might not.
Okay,
There
so
you are.
about that. So obviously, I mean, I've never played in a Capcom tournament whatsoever. Never in my life. That said, I think once you start talking about communication being managed in game and things like managing where you go in a tournament and communicating with your tournament opponent and inviting them to the matches and everything. Once that gets to be managed in game, then you come up with a whole bunch more problems. I hate to say it, because I also acknowledge that I understand why people would like it to be that way, but the thing is, as soon as it's being managed by the game and not the client or not the console or whatever you're playing on, then it becomes an issue of accessibility of the game itself. Is the game accessible enough to the blind, let's say, obviously since that's what I represent, is it accessible enough to the blind where I can even join a match or join a tournament or find my opponent? Is that even possible? And Street Fighter V is one example where accessibility is not a very high priority on their list, and so at least blind accessibility is not very high priority on their list. So I've had a lot of trouble joining with even friends on Street Fighter V, just because it's more difficult to me than it is using a system that is that caters more towards my needs. Like, for instance, the Xbox's built-in screen narration, or the PS4's built-in narration is even better than nothing, which is what the actual game Street Fighter V has. So, it's a complicated issue. It's very complicated. So there's definitely positives and negatives. If you're going to handle communication about tournaments in game, the game should be accessible to everyone, or as many people as possible. Really, everyone. I mean, that's my goal. But anyway, talking about Sento Showdown, which was the first ever blind Mortal Kombat 11 tournament that was held this year, and I participated in that. And talking about how that worked, how that happened. So the admins for the tournament were already familiar with the Smash GG UI. So what they did is they set up a form that we had to fill out. That was a Google form. It was a really easy sign up. And we signed up, and they handled every single bit of the Smash GG portion of the tournament for us, rather than having to force us to learn the UI. Because even they acknowledged, this is complicated. We've just used it for a long time, and we know how to use it.
Right.
So
Right.
even they acknowledged that. So they're like, look, don't even worry about it. We're going to be communicating. We'll let you know when your match is going to happen. Just do your match, and you'll be fine. We'll invite you to the lobbies. So that's what they did. They set up. So I believe, if I remember correctly, I had to create my Smash.gg account, and then I had to make a random password, and then they went into that account and got everything set up on the user end. So I was basically put into the tournament by one of the tournament admins, just again to make it easier on us, because Smash GG is complex and complicated. So they did that for us, and then had us change our password so they wouldn't continue to have access to it. And once matches were on, they would invite us into the lobbies for the matches, and we would just go AFK as soon as this is Mortal Kombat 11, so you can go. I don't know if you can do this in other fighting games. Again, I've only been in that one tournament ever in my life, but you can go AFK in a King of the Hill lobby. So we would just go AFK until our match was up. When our match was up, we were informed to go, to on AFK ourselves, and the match was on, and it was pretty simple. It was handled very well, I have to say. Of course, there were a few hiccups, but that's to be expected. It's tournament life. A few hiccups is expected, but overall, it went really well, and I got 5th place. There you go, top 8, yo.
Yeah, that's probably the best way I've ever heard that be handled, because I've personally reached out to blind players in the past, and simply because if they ever wanted to compete in one of our tournaments, it would have to be really hands-on from one of the organizers or myself to make sure that they have the info available to them and that it is accessible to them. Because as of right now, I think that's just where a lot of games are, is that just would be something that is required. But I don't know.
if I have anything to say about that as an accessibility consultant, that will change. If I have my way, that will change.
And I did want to mention real quick. I have a DM from one of the blind players in chat who did ask me to reinforce the fact that the grid is pretty much the only stage in Street Fighter V that doesn't have background audio, and because background audio is tied to the in-game sound effects, you cannot get rid of the in-game audio cues without, or rather, you cannot get rid of the sound cues for the stage without also getting rid of the in-game audio. And so the issue with that not being available in Top 16 is it effectively takes away a lot of the information that a blind player would use if they made Top 16, basically stacking the deck against them if they performed well.
Yeah, I've noticed that with Street Fighter V audio specifically, is that you cannot separate them out. It's maddening. I hate it. And there's also like, man, there's a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like weird audio cues that you wouldn't think are tied to, this is just a sound effect, that are like, what? How is that? Anyway.
Yeah, there are definitely some interesting choices in sound design for a few different games. But we're definitely going to be touching on general accessibility in fighting games another time. Today, of course, we've been focusing more around the surrounding environment. And Chris is trying to share a bit about his experience at Combo Breaker and what it was like experiencing a tournament as a deaf player. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading that off. Again, these are Chris's words spoken with Phage's voice. I wanted to share this because of the experience I had when I went to Combo Breaker. I signed up for a few games, and I know people, well, TOs call out the name for people going up, and as I'm deaf and I could easily miss out on my turn to play, even if I'm standing by my station, so I just wanted to let everyone know, players, TOs, or whatever, if someone is deaf and they're trying to make sure they don't miss anything, and a deaf person goes up to the TOs saying that they're deaf, please don't try to speak louder. That doesn't always help. But at least write back to them, or some obvious gesturing. So you know that they acknowledge. But it would always be helpful trying to communicate via smartphone or pen and paper. A lot of my friends who are deaf sometimes don't even want to sign up because of the barriers. So it's just something that I hope will get better. I mean, with COVID still going on, and it seems like we're going to be going on the digital path for the time being, if you're in a Discord and they say they're deaf, so they don't use a mic, please just type to them if possible. It's always important to try to make the tournament as inclusive as possible. All right, so again, the whole note here. I wanted to share this because of the experience I had when I went to Combo Breaker. I signed up for a few games, and I know people well. TOs call out the names of people going up, and as I said, I'm deaf, and I could easily miss out on my turn to play, even if I'm standing right by my station. So I just wanted to let everyone know, players, TOs, or whatever, if someone's deaf and they're trying to make sure they don't miss anything, and a deaf person goes up to the TO saying they're deaf, please, please don't try to speak louder. That doesn't always help our case, but at least write back to them or some obvious gesturing that you acknowledged. But it would always be helpful trying to communicate via smartphone or pen and paper. A lot of my friends who are deaf sometimes don't even want to sign up because of the barriers, so it's just something that I hope will get better later on. I mean, with COVID still going on, it seems like we'll be going on the digital path for the time being. If you're in a Discord and they say they're deaf so they don't use a mic, please just type to them if possible. It's always important to make the tournament as inclusive as possible.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that, Chris. With that, though, were there any other topics on the docket to discuss, or have we eaten through all of our ammunition right now?
I think I'm pretty well set. Anyone else have any points that you feel we may have missed that you'd like a chance to discuss before we call it an evening?
I think I just want to round this off by saying that accessibility is an extremely hard topic to address all around, given that, disabilities are vast and diverse. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but definitely a challenge. But people need to speak up for their needs. Disabled or not, everybody has a specific need. Everybody, accommodates themselves in a specific manner. And I think if people were more open and honest about what their needs were when it comes to fighting games, accessibility would be easier to achieve, and not so much of an abstract concept. It would go more mainstream. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, pretty much echo what Emily has to say. We are a community. Everyone's looking out for each other when it disabilities or needs of accessibility when it comes to tournaments. I've been in this. I don't want to think. I guess I've had this experience going to tournaments since 2004. Run into as many issues as you can think of. I've been DQ'd at Evo because of not being able to reach my destination or not knowing the time, which kind of sucked. I've had to lay on tables and bar stools to go into Smash tournaments, carried upstairs, things of that nature, which I know is different. Not talking about online, which is the focal point today, but a lot of those things that I had to deal with, I had to tell people in advance. It can't be an expected thing. It is something that you have to point out and make sure that it is something that can be notified to the TO and explain your situation so they can have some time to think of a way. It would be so different if I were to just join a tournament and appear and expect a table or expect something to be given to me. Like, I have to make sure that it's known beforehand. And most TOs, everyone that I've ever had to deal with or interacted with has always been super helpful. They'll do as best as they can. And the same way for the community itself. If you want to learn a character, if you want to learn something online and you're having troubles, whether it is to do with blindness or deaf or something physically, always ask, always look for your friends or look for the right group. I mean, it's been what I've been doing for the last 6 years. I do have a lot to learn still too. I'm barely starting to do captioning for my streams, and I want to do that for my YouTube videos. Be inclusive to everybody. Try to be as vocal and my notations descriptive, like people are saying here today. It's very important to let your voice be heard and let people have an issue or message. Have them notified. Have your needs be the top priority, and that'll equal to a much positive in tournaments, offline and online.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I. say.
I'm in pretty full agreement with that. Of anyone who is an event organizer, a lot of the times has either not thought about an accessibility issue or it's just crossed their minds. So anytime anything is brought up, it is possible that it could be the first time that they've ever considered something. So like, I am always super happy whenever anyone's like, hey, can you make this available, or can we do XYZ to make this better? I jump at the opportunity because more often than not, it's just not something I thought about before. It's just like Burley was saying. And most people within the fighting game community specifically are people who are accepting of that and accepting of that type of just speak up and we'll go, oh yeah, we'll solve this issue. So just want to kind of piggyback on that and be in full agreement with what Broly said.
And speaking along similar lines, of course, a lot of folks in the scene have seen me trying to use what little platform I have to reach out across a number of different disabilities. And a lot of that is just the community that I've built and folks that I've been learning with, letting me know what they need. And me having easier access to things like Twitter to find the right account to DM or whatever the case may be. And also, frankly, I'm a reasonably well-spoken white guy, so it's easier for me to get someone's attention. And a lot of the times when I'm speaking with people about things like including captions on streams or adding alt text on images for stupid FGC memes that they're tweeting out, so I can send them to Brandon and he can laugh at them with me. There's a huge difference between someone like Joe or someone else who's running a tournament for themselves, and folks who are trying to advocate on the behalf of a community for a tournament they're running for a larger company. And I know that in some cases, folks have asked if they can put captions on an official event stream and have been told no. So I would encourage folks who are not necessarily the people that need the captions to continue asking that question and to ask it publicly, and ask why do we know that there are things that we can do that we are not doing to make this community more inclusive? Because there are people who need to hear it. And many of them are not your local TOs. A lot of them could use a reminder so that they know, oh, right, I got to make sure, captions on, alt text on everything I'm tweeting out, or whatever the case may be. But really the idea of a community movement rather than just a movement from the folks who need these accessibility features, I think will be a big part of what gets noticed by folks who are actually making the. And I do want to be clear that I have had the opportunity to speak with a number of folks that are directly involved on the company side of things, who do advocate internally and have successfully gotten things fixed. But that is certainly not the case universally. And until we see a larger demand for that, they don't necessarily have much ground to stand on internally.
Yeah, good point. We found that to be true with, you know what? The old adage of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So bring these things up as often as possible. And Chris did say something in the chat. Yes, please add captioning. It'll bring more audience than you may unintentionally have left out, which is entirely true.
I agree.
Other than that, any closing thoughts from anybody before we wrap up here? I know that we kind of just did another round of closing thoughts, but yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this has been really good.
All right. With that, though, let's kind of go around the horn and do our sign-offs then. Chris, you want to take this time to write up a kind of sign-off to put on. In the meantime, Brian, where can people find you on the internet and follow what you got going on?
Sure. I am That Phage Guy. You can find me on Twitter at That Phage Guy. My account is currently locked because of my job and their social media policy. But as long as you aren't one of my students, you're more than welcome to follow. I talk a lot about accessibility, a decent amount about my own journey in teaching, in science, and in fighting games. So if that sounds of interest to you, by all means, hit me up. I'd also like to thank everyone who took the time to come out today, both to watch and participate from the chat, but also the rest of the panelists here. Every other name on this panel is considerably bigger than mine. And I did some of the initial reaching out to see if folks would be game, and I really appreciate folks who really are. And you folks may not know this because you don't work in accessibility or may not be as close to that side of development as I've become as my issues have become more pronounced, as my disability has progressed. But everyone who's here is spoken of as an expert by the folks who are actually implementing accessibility, and there's a reason for that. They know a heck of a lot. So please do not take lightly the fact that they took their time to appear here today and provide some of that wisdom.
Chris has written.
Brian.
Chris has written for his sign off. You can find him at DeafGamersTV on Twitter.com. But he says, "Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It means a lot to be able to share experiences with you and on how to make the FGC more inclusive. I hope that by the end of 2021, we'll be more than 50% inclusive. Because seriously, folks, I want to know what Yipes be saying on stream so I can laugh along too. Wink, wink. I'm smiling with you." With that, though, Broly, where can people find you on the internet? What you got going on?
Yeah, everything is pretty much BrolyLegs, Twitter, YouTube. I do a lot of training for many players. Try to be insightful for mini games, not just Street Fighter. I do help out those in Smash as well. I want to thank that fake guy and you, Joe, for inviting me on here, taking the time to moderate all this, host it. It was really, I like being able to give these insights that we have about ourselves, about our abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's always important to spread that message because there is players. I'm always astounded by how many other players that have disabilities like mine or just in their own that are in the community. So it's important to have them all included. And find me on Twitter and don't be shy to send me a message. I help everyone from all ranks, all whether it's beginner, media, novice, anything like that. Doesn't matter. I try to reach out as I can, and will continue to do so for the time being. Thank you so much.
All right, and Emily, where can people find you on the internet?
You guys can find me at Tokimeki Emily on Twitter, Instagram. I mainly talk about accessibility, cosplay, talk shit about Street Fighter V and Tekken for not being accessible in some aspects, and really big thank you to you, Broly, for being the homie and for showing me the way in the community and for being my biggest inspiration and for paving a path for me to do what I do. And thank you, Joe, for giving me my spotlight with your podcast. I really want to do it again sometime soon, so let's do it. Thank you, guys.
Who would have thought our first and only swear would come from Emily tonight? Congratulations, you're the winner. And rounding off the panel, Brandon, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me a lot of places. I'm a super blind man almost everywhere. Twitch.tv/superblindman. I am a variety streamer, but I focus on streaming games that I can also use as educational tools, because what I do is I try to educate folks on accessibility as much as I can. I show the world how blind people play games, how blind gamers out there play games. I show them the games that we can play, and I even show some games that we struggle with to make the point of how much of a challenge accessibility can be and where we could be better when it comes to accessibility. I do this because I work as an accessibility consultant and advocate as well. You can find more about me on my website at brendancole.net. brendancole.net. That's my blog is there. I write about accessibility all the time. I am currently in the review program for the PlayStation 5, so if you want to see some accessibility-related coverage on that, definitely check that out. YouTube.com/superblindman as well is where my archive videos are stored, And twitter.com/superblindmen is a great way to get a hold of me. Anyone is welcome to message me with questions, with comments, with thoughts, anything you like to message me with. I don't mind. Give me a follow, send me a DM. I'll be right there. I will answer it when I can. And I'm always willing to discuss this sort of thing. Accessibility is my passion. It is my work. It is the thing that I love to do for a living. So bring it on. Let's talk accessibility.
Right on. And with that, folks, that will do it for this first Accessibility Summit, I suppose we're going to call it. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. I will let people know that this will be archived and posted on probably a number of places. I'll try to get the word out as much as possible. So, again, thank you all for joining us, and look for this video later to share. With that, cheers, and we'll see you next time, folks. Take care.